motion, racing through like waves on the ocean, tape to tape with perfect aim, setting up a scoring claim. The coach's voice booms from the bench, calling plays an expert cinch. Pucks on net, let 'em
Welcome
rip.
to season 2, episode 33 of Cross Ice Pass. I'm your host, Coach Steve Mosier, and we've been away for a bit of the summer. So I want to kind of mention the one thing that I think most of us in our hockey community are thinking about. As much as I'm so happy to get the new season started, I have to first talk about the tragedy with Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau. For me, I felt it was worth waiting for Cross Ice Pass to comment until their funeral. That was just me, no judgment on anyone else, and all the lovely things that they've said. It's just something I wanted to kind of wait for because I didn't want this episode has a lot of happiness in it and laughter, and I really wanted to make sure that I didn't discriminate upon this tragedy and how terrible it is for all of us at all different levels. Johnny Hockey's wife, Meredith, in a tear-filled eulogy today, spoke of the new addition to their family. Johnny knew about it before the tragedy happened. So she spoke about Sean Monahan and Kevin Hayes because they were kind of his best buds from Boston College to being kind of kids in the U.S. program, things like that. Calgary and Columbus came out in droves to pay their respects. Players, people connected to the Gaudreau family have been really explaining to us, for those of us that maybe just kind of knew him as a really stellar hockey player, as a superstar in the league, as a superstar USA born hockey player. I didn't really know a lot about him, but I learned a lot about him this week, and I think that my delay on mentioning this in the first episode of the season made sense for me. Terrible loss for our community. Not only missing 2 players, but 2 people that loved their community, loved their family, loved their teammates, and most importantly, loved participating in the growth of this game. Both of them were part of a lot of major initiatives to raise money for foundations, for organizations that are maybe on the lower end of getting funding and things of that nature. So the 2 of them represented almost every aspect of hockey at the junior, pro, and national level. Boston coined him as Johnny Hockey from his amazing time with Boston College. And fans of his and those watching highlights this past week understand why. All I can say is the hockey versus lost 2 good ones here. I hope the ice is good up there, Johnny and Matthew, and giving my best wishes and tears to your family and at this tough time. I'm also curious how the NHL is gonna honor them. I'm sure a lot of teams, even baseball and football teams, have been honoring these 2 guys. So on that note, there's my take on the Gaudreau situation. Tragedy hit us all, and I feel bad because last year it was the neck guard issue. Also the 2 girls that were killed in Miami that played for not for Northeastern, but they played for Northeast. I forget the name now. then going back to the Humboldt tragedy and everything like that, these kind of big moves um, are the biggest reason why I'm happy I chose this sport, because the community is so abundant in how, we can be hard on the ice to each other, but we can also, really pat someone on the back, give someone a shoulder to cry on, and everything else. So um, let's move on for this episode. I'm gonna start. One thing I want to mention is that I'm gonna start kind of shortening my intros, um, just because I really want to put more emphasis on the interviews, because they're much more robust, and I think um, listeners are telling me that they have a little more solidity to my intros. But I'm still gonna do short intros. I'm still gonna do my happy, surprising, not surprising, and pretty unusual, and switching from the sadness of the Goudreau tragedy into happy. This week, I came back. I was spent a couple weeks visiting family in Michigan. I was really proud that I was invited to be to a pretty high level tryout during my recent visit to Michigan. Thank you to my episode 29 guest, Bell Tire sled hockey coach Derek Dinette, who also um, helped get Vladimir Konstantinov back on the ice on a sled. This is my first access on ice to see sled hockey. I've seen it live. I've seen it on video, but actually being on the ice with these guys, there was 3 guys from Team Canada on this tryout. Um, there is a girl who made the USA women's team, um, and I got to say, it's fast. It's a fast sport. It really sealed my hope and expectation of Cross Ice Pass. Is to tell everyone's story, and I'm going to continue doing that. I'm never going to. I hope I don't sell out to just NHL stories. We're going to have a lot of those, but there's an abundance of these great stories all over the hockey community, and all types, all shapes, all sizes, all colors. Um, it's really lovely to be able to plug in and see the high level of skill and the sled hockey practice in front of me. It really brightened my day. You can ask my family. I was really um, super happy and very excited that I was able to take part of that. Also, I was home. I was able to play with my episode 1 guest, Jason McCrimmon, who won the 2023 Willie O'Ree Award from the NHL with his Detroit Ice Dreams organization at Jack Adams Arena in Detroit, as well as owner and coach with the Motor City Gamblers. Also, had a pretty storied career playing pro hockey for a long time, and he was we were chirping each other pretty well, but it was a fun skate. Lots of good players, and thanks Jason for inviting me. And hopefully, when I'm home again, we'll be able to do that more. I really have. I've been able to kind of start. I'm being able to kind of reach people that I get to interview, but then I want to kind of talk to them further in real life. As the kids say, IRL. So I'm going to try to do more of that. Surprising. After a year of naming teams by their cities, we now have the PWHL team names. I have to say, they are not what I thought. The Boston Fleet, New York Sirens, Montreal, Victor, Ottawa Charge, and the Toronto Scepters. Oh man, I have to say, as a graphic designer myself, I'm not impressed. Montreal and Minnesota have the best logo, as well as 2 of the best out of 3 team names, because the other 3 are terrible. I actually like the New York Sirens because it has history. It has a lot of depth to the use of sirens in history and things like that, especially since it's a female team. I love that. Um, the Victor is a really great reference to Montreal and the French speakers in Montreal. Love that. Minnesota Frost I think is kind of cool. Um, but the Fleet, I don't know, probably my third to last, probably my fourth favorite. Um, the Charge. The only problem with the Ottawa Charge is that they copied the the Cavs logo. If you look at the Cavs basketball jersey logo, it's not very far away. It's just kind of a more, I don't know, maybe a more animated version of it or something, or a minimal version of it. And then the Scepters, a trophy in the numero uno hockey city. Scepters. Are you kidding me? Um, I don't know. I was expecting something better from Toronto. I was even expecting, you know, Lady Leafs, or I don't know, something that had something to do with Canada, being in Toronto, being in, such a hotbed. I think it was really off. I think the PWHL hit the ball way foul and nowhere near a home run. But at least there's some choices for fans, and as I constantly say, for kids. So kids can, don't have to wear a shirt that just says New York on it or something. Very curious to see how the jerseys end up. I think from last I heard, they're going with Bauer jerseys. Not sure. Anyway, not surprising. Speaking of jerseys, Fanatics are already dropping the ball in their jerseys. So we heard the top level jerseys are going for 135% 135% cost increase at $425. Um, they even had a special order for the Anaheim Ducks jersey, which I have to say the Anaheim Ducks kit looks pretty cool. I'm pretty happy with the orange and the way that they did that, to the kind of referencing the old movies, which is great. But the jersey was $500 and it doesn't even say a name or anything on it. I don't know who would buy that. I'm sure some Anaheim Duck fan would have gotten it, but that's just a ripoff. For it to go that high in, like, that's almost double what someone can buy the Adidas Prime ones. And we are seeing, there was a post about Matty Beniers. His practice jersey was ripped. That might have nothing to do with the quality of it. It might have just caught a screw or something at the rink he was at. We shall see. But I still tell people, buy the Adidas ones while you still can. They're on sale. They're available in a lot of various sizes. Buy them, buy them, buy them, buy them, because until we see these Fanatics jerseys in real life, I don't know. Maybe I'll find out when the NHL store here in the New York City has them available, so I can do a little live segment. Unusual. Hockey's sister sport of bandy. Bandy is really old. It's about 125 years old. Um, but it's finally introduced itself through some teams from the U.S., Sweden, and Norway in Las Vegas this week. Bandy is usually played on ice that is the size of a soccer field. The sticks are kind of field hockey sticks, and they use a ball. But a lot of players, including Teemu Selanne, mentioned in the Spit and Chicklets interview that it really helped their speed, because having that much ice and straightaway is kind of, you got to imagine, it's kind of wild. But I really think that they were showing it in Vegas in a regular hockey rink, because they're starting to try to make bandy a sport that they can play, on the ice, on hockey ice, and not that large ice that's really hard, and it's got to be really cold in those places to have that. So we'll see how it goes. The other thing about it, I think I kind of want to start to mention the growth of all types of hockey as an organized sport. Um, Hockey ball and floorball, um, you know, ball hockey, deck hockey, sled hockey, blind hockey, like all of it I want to talk about, and including bandy. And I'm just so everyone gets informed about these things, because I when I talk to people about sled hockey, they have no idea what I'm talking about. When I talk to people about blind hockey, they're like, that exists, and the list goes on with bandy and all these other things. Um, and yes, it does exist, and I want to inform you about it. So um, keep your eyes peeled for that kind of information. I'm going to probably get some guests on here that have to do with a lot of those various hockey sports. I've already had some on here. Greg Bowden with hockey ball. I've had Derek with sled hockey. I've had Kelsey with blind hockey. So I really like to show the variation in our sport. This week's Coach's Corner. This week I'm starting a new chapter coaching 12U youth hockey for the New York City Cyclones program. After spending so many years at the 16U and 18U level, I'm pretty excited to develop this young group into players and fans of the sport. Not excited about the early mornings, but very pumped about the first time of the day on fresh ice. I remember how that always felt when I used to skate really early in the mornings, and you kind of are half asleep still heading into the rink, and that cold ice, and kind of strapping your skates on for that first time in the morning is a pretty great moment, and I suggest if anyone can do it, I suggest go for it. So today's interview is with Estela Rivas-Bryant. Our season 2 guest is the 2024 Willie O'Ree Community Hero Award winner. Estela, we chat about her great organization called the Empowerment Effect. My chat with her was filled with a lot of why not moments, which is really great, that she has that, you know, that spunk and excitement to just kind of, say, why not? Let's try it. And everything's has worked out really well for her and this program, including the things I deal with in cost, um, handicaps, accessibility from, from someone relatively newer to the sport. She was kind of still a teenager when she found hockey and wanted to play. And we hear a lot about, her journey. So let's move on to our chat with Estela. All right, folks. Season 2, here we go. We've got a El Segundo, California native, played for her Wildcats club team at West Los Angeles College, a hockey coach with over 20 years of experience, audio production manager at the Religion of Sports, the organization founded by Tom Brady, Michael Strahan, and Gautam Chopra. President and founder of the Empowerment Effect, currently located at East West Ice Palace in Artesia, California. Winner of the 2024 Willie O'Ree Community Hero Award, provided by the National Hockey League. An active mom to her wonderful son Lucas, and partner to her amazing husband and fellow hockey player Robert. Welcome to Cross Ice Pass, Estela Mama Bear Rivas-Bryant.
See, thank you. What an intro. Wow. I feel like I grew 5 inches just listening to that intro. Thank you.
Well, there's so many things that you guys have going on, and it's so perfect. But the one thing that with Cross Ice Pass that we always do, and I love to do it, it's I've got T-shirts that say it, but we've got to start with, what is your fondest hockey memory?
Fondest hockey memory.
And it can be recent, old. It doesn't have to be anything specific.
I have 2 that are very similar, and you'll understand why they're my favorite moments. One is, I've done my nonprofit work this will be now my 14th year doing nonprofit hockey work. And having one of my girls be old enough to play goalie for me in my Friday night beer league game, and having her be nervous and having it be like her first league game, and then having it be with me, and I was like her defenseman and like talking to her, and I was in tears sobbing after the game. Like it was my baby being out there, right? Seeing what they can do and them stepping up and just seeing that come full circle. And then I ended up again that same Friday night league. Again, I've been coaching for 25 years, right? I don't want to totally age myself, but uh, and I'm now playing defense with somebody I coached when she was a mite at 8 years old, and she's married. They're looking to start a family, and they're my babies, right? So these two moments are probably my fondest hockey memories.
Those are pretty amazing because I have some that are pretty close to that, just for the fact that, you know, not only when we sign up to be coaches and we sign up to kind of help these young people, we would never imagine like where our relationship would go with them. You know, you kind of like teach
No,
them, and then they kind of go off, and then, you know, like my boys will give me a shout and they'll be like, "Coach, you want to play open hockey?" And I'm like, "Sure, I will."
yeah. Are you old enough? Oh wait, you are. You guys are inviting me. Okay, yeah, yeah. And you forget, and and you don't think about it, right? We don't coach because of this. We coach because we love hockey and we want to share that passion. And then everything else that comes along with it, and that, that saying that you reap what you sow and you don't really realize it. Like having those kids come back and seeing them as adults and seeing them come full circle is like, I mean, it's mind blowing. I still don't think I'm as old as I am, but my
It's just a
time
number.
clock has stopped. Yeah, theirs have kept going. I'm good.
Yeah. Well, I usually kind of go through a chronological way of doing, but I really want to hear about before I ask any questions about your hockey life personally. I'd love to kind of just get a little taste at first of to give the listeners some understanding of what the empowerment effect is.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so I'm fortunate enough to have found hockey as an adult. I didn't grow up with it. I'm first generation Mexican American, and it was go to school, come home, do chores, get stuff done, rinse and repeat. Right, like that's what the girls' role was. Um, I've always wanted to do more. Right, give back, and how do I do it? And I fell in love with hockey at 18. I played for West LA College for a few years and just fell in love with it all and realized, like, as I was playing women's hockey and looking down on my bench, I had like Doc, who's a neurosurgeon, who was playing next to me. I had her daughter, who was finishing her first year of college, so still trying to find her way. We had another kid who was a burger flipper, right? Like local McDonald's, and it didn't matter, right? And looking at this, I felt so inspired. I was like, how am I not doing something with all of this gold that's sitting here? Um, and I was involved with another nonprofit previous to this for 10 years. And then during COVID, I just decided it was my time to start the empowerment effect and get some more girls out there. And so what our program is, it is a nonprofit that uses the unconventional sport of ice hockey to teach life lessons to young women here in LA County. We do a lot of our recruiting through the LA County Child Services. So I meet every 6 months with all of their counselors, some of their other organizations, community partners that they work with. And we kind of go over what we're doing. How can we be a tool and a resource for some of these kids and families? Um, and so we get a lot of kids that are starting to get into the system. Something's gone wrong, and we're just like another tool for them, and hopefully like they're at that age where you could go right or left, right? So we're just trying to get them to turn right. And so and when I did it, I was like, there's got to be people who want this with me. And everybody always says like, oh man, I'd love to do something like that, but who's got the time? Or like, I wouldn't even know how to do it. So I was like, well, let me figure it out. And so I started figuring it out, and here we are. A couple years later, we're branching out, hopefully expanding this year. We've had over 100 girls go through our program the last couple of years, and it's been phenomenal response from the community. all my board members, when I pitched it to all of I basically sent an email to all the female hockey players in LA County and was like, hey, I have a crazy idea, jump on the Zoom. And they did. And I was worried that I was like, I need a board of directors, I need some volunteers, I need money, right? And by the time I was done with that call, 8 people had already Zelled or Venmoed me like $500 each. I already had 10 people who had emailed me right then and there. I'm interested. Here's what I think I could do. But like, I was floored by the support I got. But this is why I had to do this, because women who play hockey aren't minimalists, right? We are a little extra in our own little way, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't be playing hockey. We'd be home, or I don't know, doing something else, volleyball. I don't know. And so everyone's got a superpower. I'm a big believer in that. And I help highlight their superpowers, and that's, I think, what's gotten us to where we are. It's just amazing people doing this all for the right reasons. Everyone's volunteer. I don't pay any payroll for anybody, including myself.
I love that, because that also encourages that people are doing this like purely out of their just straight from the heart, straight from their, probably finding schedule to get in there and making sure they're there when you need them. And I love that. I mean, I really love these kind of things that I've been really focusing on evolving, kind of just learnings of, women and girls in the game. And having Alana Blahovsky in the first season, who won the gold with the U.S. in '98. And she kind of, she had to travel to the Northeast from Minnesota, from one of the states of hockey, to just play.
Right.
And women were, encouraged to play ringette in Minnesota, not play hockey. They could only play with boys, which is still, a kind of an evolving thing that I've seen even in my programs. And then I got to talk to Amanda Pelkey, who played for Boston in the PWHL last year. And, of course, she's younger, but,
yeah,
seeing the evolution of what, where colleges started having women's programs. And then, the fact that I kind of started early in life too, or late in life, I should say, in the hockey world. I started at 15, and it seems like you started around 18, 19.
Yeah.
So
it's not the norm.
No, and just that evolution. I mean, and I see it at my rinks in beer league games and things like that. And guys, I see these guys are like, oh, I went to Northeastern, or I went this, and then this little, like super powerful woman, but she's just sitting there with her stick, and she gets out there and she just drills these guys. I love it.
Listen, this is how I met my husband. Is we were playing against each other. We were in a co-ed league because my team was called Girl Trouble. We were all girls. That's what made it a co-ed league. Is that our team was in it. There was not one other woman in the league. In the entire league, any other division, there was no other woman.
Wow.
Except for our team. And we knew. Listen, I'm 5'2". I know I look big and I may sound big, but I'm 5'2", man. Like, on a good day. I can't compete with a 6-foot guy, a 6'2" guy, 300 pounds. So what do? We decided to be faster. We decided to learn how to cycle better and pass better. So you got to catch us in order to hit us, right? And so we would win games over and over again because I'm 5'2". I would duck under people. I know that sounds silly, but that was one of my moves. Like, so
yeah. Also
yeah.
better listeners. In my
listen.
So that usually makes a better team.
Yeah. Yes and no. There's always the drama too. There's all the things, but we did really well because we enjoyed the game and we just wanted to play smarter and not harder, and it worked for us.
I love that. That's such a. I'm going to ask again about this, how you met your husband's situation, because I'm sure there's a deeper story to it there. But I'm really curious about, because I always love talking with people, especially, I'm from Michigan, so I'm like, oh, there was always hockey here and blah, 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 blah. And you grew up in a state that, you just got Wayne Gretzky.
Yep.
LA, there
You
was no Ducks, there was no Sharks, there was no
you you
Coyotes. And I'm
you
kind of
said it
curious.
though.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious how that your hockey, you know, how, how hockey started in your life before you decided, you know what, I think I'm going to try this out.
And
What
do a
created that
whole
spark?
nonprofit. Do it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct. So again, first generation Mexican American, we didn't grow up with a ton of money. Working folks. I was brought up with really good work ethic, which I will forever be grateful for, and I hope my son is picking this up for me. But I had moved out to LA. I grew up in Marina Valley, and I came out for college. And my friend had a little boy. I met a friend out here, and he was like 5 at the time, and he had been watching hockey. They had been exposed; it was more of a thing for them. And I was like, "Oh, this is a great sport." So he was like, "I want to learn to play," and I was like, "Okay." So we went over to the local rink. I signed him up for lessons, and then I would take him, and I was like, "This is kind of cool, right?" And I'm like looking around, right? And I was like, "Well," he's like, "Well, can you go skate with me? Can you do all these things with me?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know how, but all right, let me learn, right?" And so I learned. And all of a sudden I got hooked. I mean, I was probably on the ice the first time, and I was like, this is incredible. My first game, when I got convinced to sign up for an in-house league, I remember vividly like, oh yeah, I can do this, I can do this. And remember getting everything dressed and just seeing a trash can and going, don't look at the trash can, don't look at the trash can. Don't look at the trash can. I went right by it, and I was like, "Whoa." Like my nerves got the best of me. I was doing my best. Um, and so in showing him and us learning together hockey, we both fell in love with it. He's a grown adult now, living in Arizona with his girlfriend and doing all the great things. And you know, but that's kind of how I got into it. And then I was addicted to it. I haven't turned back since.
Yeah, it's a very hard thing to do, especially when you talk to people, like us that, you know, it was nothing when I was a kid. I grew up in a blue collar family as well. Like, I was focused on baseball. That was our only thing
Right.
because we couldn't afford
Because
hockey.
you could go to the school and play baseball.
Yep.
You can grab a ball and go to the school too and play basketball. Like all of these are sports, you just need a ball. Hockey is a whole nother thing. It's where do you play it, getting all the equipment, like I'm sure we'll talk about the cost and all those things later on.
Yeah.
But again, it is something that unless it's put in your universe, it's not something people expose people to because there's a cost to it.
Yeah. And the thing is that, just like you mentioned, we all know that once you once you get started, once you take that first shot and it goes in the net, or once you know feel your edges a little bit and you're like, "Oh, I'm not falling now."
Yep. And you
It's
start to
pretty
fall in love with the smell of the ice. You fall in love with the sounds of your skates cutting the ice. Like two
yeah.
of my favorite sounds in the world.
Yeah. Like I mentioned to you off camera before is that I'm going to be coaching some younger kids, which is new for me because it's really early in the morning. But my number one thing about that is that I'll be the first on the ice in the morning.
So
So,
you get that fresh overnight cut.
different sound.
Oh,
The ice sounds different. It's quiet there because by when I'm usually coaching in the afternoon. There's already a lot of stuff going on. Parents are screaming
the
across the way. In the
the
morning,
building's
parents will just be
hot.
like, yeah, parents are not going to talk at all. They're going to sit and
Yeah.
hide in the corner.
Take
So
my kid, please.
yeah, so it'll be this nice quiet time. But yeah, no, that love is so funny because I've tried every sport other than football in my life, and hockey just there's something about it. I don't know, and that's the easiest. That's the one answer, just like the NHL commercial that they have when they ask guys after they win the cup, "Oh, so how do you feel?" And they just don't know how to even talk, even though it's
Right.
been something they've been thinking about their whole lives.
But how do you describe it? You don't. You just it just is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It's yeah.
back to your day. Yeah, back to your days when you're playing and things. Um, before we get into your coaching that I'm curious about, talk to me about this husband situation.
Yeah, so we met 25 years ago playing hockey. It was actually roller hockey at the time. Again, because it was lower cost, right? You know, a roller league is $200, and ice leagues like $900 at the time.
Yeah.
Now it's even more. Anyways, and so again, I was playing on the girl trouble team, and he was playing on the other team, and you know, it kind of come around. We met each other, and I remember one game, him yelling like to his team, like anybody but her, like meaning like you can hit, and I was like, wait, what?
What's that mean? Yeah, I know. Like, he thinks
So,
he's being nice. You're like, what are you trying to say?
oh yeah, no. So I adjusted my elbow pads, and I nailed them into the boards, and I was like, yeah, no, don't mess with me, buddy. Like we're good. And then someone's like, you should maybe give him a chance. And then here we are, 20 some years later.
That's
Yeah.
lovely. I mean, I love little love stories like that because they don't happen that often. I mean, the fact that you guys are married for as long as you guys have been married, and that was the story that yeah, I tightened up my elbow pads to to show him what
Yeah.
was going on. Doesn't happen that
He
often,
knew he knew what he was getting into from the start. I mean,
Yeah,
there's no questioning on that. He knew.
yeah. He wasn't ready for the hockey cheerleader. He was ready for the hockey player.
Correct. Yep. And I think that was it. I think that's what did it for him. He was ready to propose that night, I think.
That's great. No, I mean, one thing about that, I'm curious. Did you guys have a hockey themed wedding?
N- no. Because yeah, he's traditional Episcopalian. I'm traditional Catholic. My father's a deacon in the Catholic Church. But I think 2 weeks before that, that was my last like in-house game, and my in-house families threw us like a little engagement pre-wedding thing after the game in the locker room. And so we got a little frame, and all the kids signed it. And they'd bought a white helmet and put a veil on it, and had all the kids sign that as well. So I put that helmet and veil right next to my wedding cake so that I could have my kids at my wedding. So it wasn't quite hockey themed, but I definitely brought my hockey people and my love to my wedding, 100%.
Love that. No, that's like a perfect segue to my next question because I'm just curious about this coaching bug. And it sounds like you had kind of, even though you were kind of learning along with a younger player and a younger kid, um, was that when the bug hit, or like when did you really think that you wanted that to be part of your hockey life?
Well, so I never thought it would, right? Again, I'm going into it later on in life. Who does that, right? Like only people who have been brought up in it and know all the things. But again, as I was, working with my friend's son at the time, and I'd be at the rink and we'd go down and just skate and just hang out with him. And the league director at the time was a woman, Terry Dassault, or Weatherset at the time. And she was like, she would see me there, and she was like, "You're really good with him." And I was like, "Well, he's like my nephew, blah blah blah, right?" And then she was like, "I got another kid. Can I just toss him out there with you just to like keep him busy?" And I was like, "Of course, that's more the merrier." And then she was like, "Cool, so you should coach. It's like you should do your coaching certification. Like, let's get you out here. Like, we'll figure it out. I'll teach you all the hockey things. We'll figure out the rest." And I was like, "All right, let's do it." And I did, and it's been a wild ride. It's been a wild ride.
Yeah. No, I mean, coaching is it takes a different type, and it takes us a little while before we kind of know that it takes a different type. Because when you first start, you're like, yeah, this is no big deal. Just put some cones around, tell this kid to run around the cone, take a shot, and then you start to realize you deal with a bit of the drama off the ice, a little bit of what happens in the locker room, um, things that are happening kids really like out of the rink entirely, and trying to deal with that and those, you're kind of just dealing with little micro lives of everybody, and on top of it, you're trying to teach them this great game. So that's
Right. And keeping them and understanding, right? So it's that whole pressure of, okay, yeah, I can have them go skate around circles, but then what? right? And like, how do you develop us? What do you do with this, right? And so even now, fast forward 25 years, I tell my coaches, like, if you're volunteer, I, the people, again, I like people to use their superpowers. I know people who play who I would not necessarily want the kids to learn from them, right? But then they're really good off the ice, right? Where they're totally different on the ice than they are off the ice, right? So there's one thing. The other part too is like telling people, like, you guys are good women with good intentions. This is why you're filling out this whole volunteer thing. It's a long sheet. It's not because I care. Yes, it is because I care about the information on there. But if you're going to go through this and put some thought into this and give me these responses, you're doing this because you want to give back. I can't teach somebody that. I can teach you how to coach, but I can't teach you how to be a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started building this program, I knew very quickly that I needed to find really good, strong mentors, and then the coaching will get developed. And it has been a no-brainer. And again, as the program has evolved, they've skyrocketed. They're taking more coaching. There was a big certification with USA Hockey this weekend. A lot of them were there this weekend doing it, making sure that they're redoing their stuff, just wanting to learn and grow, right?
Yep.
So I surround myself with people who want to keep learning, people who want to keep growing. Like, that's how we're at where we're at.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I mean, it also, because my program, they're like, hey, Steve, you got to get your safe sport in. You got to, and then,
Yeah.
I've working through all those levels and doing all of that. And then you really, I was blessed to kind of have Peter Laviolette do some of my early USA hockey instruction. But like, it's so impactful and then you start to, whoa, there's like a lot of theory behind this, and then there's a lot of this behind this, and then no one ever, and it always cracks me up though when you go to USA Hockey, training and stuff like that. There's never talk about the stuff that happens off the ice, and
Right.
the mentoring that you're mentioning is like such a huge part of that.
It is an incredible part that nobody realizes until you're deep into it.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't even realize it as you're going into it. You don't realize it until all of a sudden you're like going to sleep at night going, okay, I got to get this hockey drill. This kid needs to, I need to remind these parents to sharpen their skates. This kid is getting bullied. So how do we address this? And you're like, oh my God, I am in everyone's lives. I have an impact. And then you're like, oh my God, I have an impact. Right. So now I got to really be serious about what I'm doing and really put thoughts into people are looking at me for guidance or for whatever it may be. I need to make sure that I'm doing the best I can in that same aspect. But
100%.
until you're in there,
Yeah.
you don't know. It's like sand trap. It's like,
yeah,
quick.
Got to put the helmet on. Got to put the helmet on in all aspects. Yeah. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHELP. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHELP a try. Visit betterhelp.com/THPN today to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/THPN. Score big with DraftKings Sportsbook, the best place to bet touchdowns. Download the DraftKings Sports app and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $250 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 and get 1 month of NFL Plus Premium on us. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball. NFL Plus Premium premium offer available only to new and former NFL Plus subscribers. Additional NFL Plus premium terms at nfl.com/terms.
One thing I'm curious about when it comes to kind of how this all started is, I know we've got now that you were, found it late, fell in love with it, found coaching, found your husband. What really kind of started this idea to put together something for the community built around hockey?
Yeah, so I'd actually started with another nonprofit that was partnered up with a local police department. Um, and they kind of had this idea of like, what if we get some girls out there? What they didn't have was a coach. And so I don't know, like my name got passed around, in beer league circles. Hey, do you have somebody? Oh yeah, I got a guy. Oh, this guy. Like, oh, well, so and so can't do it. I got another guy. And so I ended up getting volunteered for it, and I was like, we can do a lot with this. And so, I helped build that program. We started evolving it to bigger ideas and really understanding the impact that we were having of these girls. It wasn't just the ice, right? And that's when we started to really realize that it wasn't even about the hockey. It was genuinely seeing women empowered, running something, running a program, running the practices, running, whatever it may be, having that knowledge, having a woman be somebody that their parents would go to ask a question for, to get guidance, understanding. And I talk to the kids about this. I talk to them to this day about this. Your words matter. What you say matters on or off the ice. So like, you got to be able to understand that. And so one of the drills we actually do with our kids is I have them get in a circle. Day one, it's like one of the first things we do. I make them so uncomfortable. We go and I say, okay, say your name before you pass the puck. So they do that. Okay, say your age before you pass the puck. They do that. They pass the puck around. And then I say, okay, like now I want you to say something mean about the person you're passing it to. I don't like your skates. I don't like your shirt. I don't like whatever. And they all look at me like, and I was like, yeah, like, and then I do an example of like, I don't like your shoelace color. And I pass it and as they're doing it, I was like, go. And they don't want to start it. Once they start it, they don't want to say it. They don't want to, like their passes get softer. Their everything changes. So I don't let it go very long. I let it go enough for them to see the difference. And then we stop. And then I say, okay, now you're going to pass the puck. And now you're going to say your favorite thing you love to eat. Pizza, sushi, whatever. And they were like, and you could see literally they went from here to here and they're passing the puck. And then we stop and we say, okay, you guys need to understand the power of words. It controls your mind. You guys have to be positive out here. You have to encourage your neighbor. They're going to get you better passes if they're feeling confident that you're going to be there for them. If you're going to cheer them on, you're going to feel better if you're passing it to them and you know that they're going to be there. So that communication opens up. You need to understand the power of your words. And then there's that flip of a switch. And you see the kids just being happy out there and understanding that it's a different program. I'm not out there to be like, whipping kids and like, go, go, go. Like, this isn't Miracle. We're not like running lines. But I am going to push you so that you can find where to push yourself. And that's what our kind of goal is out there with these kids. And so, again, it's a big, words matter.
Oh, I love that. I mean, Coach, I might steal that. I'm sorry. Just so you know.
No, listen,
Um,
it's a gift. You're not stealing it if I'm giving
yeah.
it to you.
Because I love things like that, because those are things that I like to, because communication is key. And they don't really notice when you watch, NHL hockey, that those guys are talking the whole time. If you could put your ear, I always, tell kids, if you ever get that one chance to sit near the ice and get your ear near the opening in the glass and just listen,
Yeah.
they're constantly talking to each other. There's constant sound, and communication's key. And the level of, like, and it happens. I'll have kids that if a kid doesn't pass it to him, his communication is negative. And I love that you kind of started that with, let's start with something negative. And the kids don't want to do it because it almost like, and you're like,
It
see,
does.
that's how it feels.
It brings a physical pain. You can see the physical effect, and that's a part that they need to understand,
Yeah, I love it.
right? Get more bees with honey, baby. Let's go.
I love it. Something I love when I was researching so do you guys call it the T since it's the empowerment effect? I kept seeing it kind of like the TEE in there. I'm like, okay, I like that. Um,
Yeah, it's coming to different places. Some of our kids have asked if we could get a mascot. They've suggested a T-Rex. And some of the images, some of the kids started, I mean, it turned into a whole thing. I didn't even realize the kids were talking about it. And all of a sudden the parents are like, so coach, we'd like to talk to you about something. And I was like, oh God, what just happened, right? And they're like, the kids would like a mascot. And they've come up with these AI images. And and they were the most fantastic T-Rexes playing hockey I've ever seen. It was fantastic.
that's awesome.
But yeah, so TEE is kind of our thing.
Um,
That's usually what we yell and scream.
it's a little easier. It's not. I love the title is amazing, but I know
Thanks.
when you're yelling in the middle of the rink, I know sometimes it might be
Yeah, the
difficult.
that's
Yeah,
really long,
yeah.
right? So if you do 1, 2, 3 T, you're good.
The one thing I was that I loved going through because you show the players you have. I love that you
Yeah.
didn't show photos. That's great. But there's so many age different groups, and the thing I loved about it was the titles you gave them. Can you talk our listeners through those age groups and why the titles that you have?
Yeah. So we have again. I'm a big believer in words matter. Um, so my vision for the program was always kids should be surrounded by positivity the second they are part of our program to the time they leave, and it should be contagious, right? That's that empowerment effect portion to the name, right? Of how can you then pass this on to somebody else and do it to somebody else? Um, Sorry, what was your question, real quick? Let's go back to that one.
Oh no,
Sorry.
the titles for the age groups.
Oh, okay, yes. So our kids all have on their jerseys. They don't have their names on them. They all have positive, empowering words on them. So, empowered. My jersey is empathy. I think empathy is my superpower. Um, Courage. All things that as we were developing this, I thought to myself, this is how they should be described. They should be described by the courage that they're coming into this program, by their determination of moving forward, right? So as you go through, all of our kids are labeled instead of by ages, they are labeled as courage, not discouraged, sorry, courage. We have different names for them because we just felt that that was kind of the stages in their age that they were at. We felt like they were pushing forward. Okay, now they've gotten this, they're determined to get into a local league at like the squirt age, right? Is usually kind of what it is. And so that's where we're trying to kind of encourage that as well. Um,
Sounds better than squirts and bantams
well,
and pee. He sounds way
and,
better.
and they don't know what that is anyways.
Right.
And I, again, they will find that elsewhere. What this is here is how do I use hockey to spread love. That's it. And positivity. That's it.
And you guys, from what I understand, you guys meet a couple times a month.
Yeah, so we only do 2 times a month. And would we love to do more? Of course, but it also is part of. So we meet 2 times a month on the ice, and then we do one event a month that is a mentorship event, a paying it forward event. Because the other things that we talk about is no matter how bad your life is, someone's always got it worse. And what we can do is dwell on the negativity, or we can find ways to find positivity and share that with others and pay it forward. And so we talk about bettering your community. Where does your community start? Well, it starts in your own home. right? So maybe this week you make your bed all week long without your mom asking you, or you just make your bed. I don't even know if kids know how to make their beds anymore. It's not even a thing.
Right.
Or like take the trash out, right? And so after practices, we talk about that. So there's things that we do through the month, right? But it's not that we're meeting. So we go through the locker room and say, okay, what'd you do to pay it forward? What did you do this week? Well, I helped my mom to cook dinner 2 nights this week. Great, that's amazing, way to go! And everybody claps, right? What'd you do? Well, my friend was having a really rough day, so I sat with her at recess and we talked. What would you do? Well, I just listened. Fantastic. That's what I want the kids to hear, right? Again, I want them surrounded by, well, oh, that's it. I could just hold the door for somebody and that counts as something good. Yeah, of course it's something good. Like
No,
it
it's
doesn't have to be
so amazing.
grandesque.
So
Yeah,
amazing. I love it so much just because it teaches them too that those things, they don't hurt to do.
right.
They're very easy habits, you know.
Yeah,
It doesn't hurt to do them. It doesn't hurt to open the door. It doesn't hurt to get angry for no reason. It doesn't, there's there's so many great things that encourages. I love that so much.
yeah, thanks.
Um, One thing I'm kind of curious about is you have so many great women on your board. Looking at your board, it looks like you guys created the Avengers of women's hockey out
I,
west.
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of feel like that sometimes in our board meetings, going, "Wow, do I belong here? Wait, what's happening? These women are so smart." Like that's how I realized about like having to downgrade my software, and I was like, "What?" Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah. No, and I think it's so wonderful, but I'm also curious. I know that you guys have a partnership with the LA Kings,
Yeah,
and I'm always curious when I hear about an organization that has those kind of partnerships, and because I know that every organization and how they deal with these partnerships is different. I'm kind of
yeah.
curious how the LA Kings are helping elevate the T.
Yeah, absolutely. The Kings have actually been super supportive from the start. They were supportive with my old organization. When I branched off and did our own thing, they were the first ones on board. They were like, Estella, we have history with you. We know you. We know what you do. Let's go. And so I basically said, like, listen, I know you guys, I don't want to take your resources. I'll figure that out on my own. But like, obviously I need a little bit of help, funding, whatever. Like, and they didn't blink an eye, and they jumped in and they were like, "Here's a check for you. Like, let's get you connected with people. Let's figure this out." And so I'm eternally grateful for their support from the start, and they continue to support us now. They've been our sponsor every year. Um, we also have an annual tournament. So one of our big fundraisers is an adult tournament that we throw during Labor Day weekend called Play LA here in Lakewood. And so they're donate 2 tickets for every player who registers for the tournament. They've donated goodie bags for us. They've got some tickets, like so they're on board because they understand like this is one of our biggest fundraisers for us to help be self sufficient, self supportive, and be able to give back. And honestly, the more we're bringing in, the more doors that we can open and more opportunities that we can open for these kids. And so they have 100% been on board from the start. And we talked about uh, how it can't just be a one-off, right? And they agreed. They were like, no, we want to develop something. So even from the start, we've already talked about how we want to make sure that there's a 5-year commitment from all of us, right? I am committing that I am going to do my part to make sure that we get as many girls out of here, that we are mentoring these girls. We are still continuing, and if I can get them in the in-house programs, I would love to get as many girls playing. And next steps, it's that player pathway, right? That's one of the problems, especially in Southern California. There's a lack of player pathway, especially for young women, right? They get to 12 out here. You're going to the East Coast if you want to play college at 12.
Yeah.
Like they're not ready to be away from home, and so, but
Hmm.
there's nowhere to go. And like you said earlier, like you got people nearby who are still having to go far away. And so, my bigger goal is creating a better player pathway. And I think there's a lot of, as I've developed this program, the Kings have been on board. I've had communication with USC. They currently have a club team, and figuring out how do we make that like a non-club team and make it part of the player pathway.
Mm-hmm.
And there's other women hockey players who feel the same, who basically came to me too and were like, Estela, we love what you're doing. Let's go to the next level, and how can we help? So again, we're all developing bigger pathways here for sure.
On that, because I'm going to ask you about the Willie O'Ree Award, but on that situation, because I think it's important where you're at in that moment, is something I mentioned on this podcast a lot, and I firmly believe in, is that women are a big part of bringing this sport back to life at the NHL level and the viewership level and at the player level. Just because I'm seeing numbers kind of dwindle for boys, and of course, a lot of I called it the tight collar guys are like, oh no, hockey's still there, and I'm like, you got to look at these numbers that I'm seeing, and and places like New York where I coach. I used to be able to coach there was 4 house hockey teams that could play in the same facility. Now we have one that has to travel.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's something there, and the fact that the girls team is so great to watch. For one thing, the thing I love about girls in hockey versus boys in hockey, boys have this really hard. It takes a while for boys to understand camaraderie amongst each other and team play, and girls know it right away. Like, don't get me wrong, there's some that don't like each other, and there's drama that happens in teams, but that's going to happen until they take the skates off and decide to never wear them again. But
right, of course.
I love that, and I'm just kind of, what do you think about that? That mentality that I'm thinking about with that growth, and how important it is from women.
I absolutely agree with you. I think women's sports as a whole, right? Let's stop there, has grown significantly, right? And maybe not grown. Let me rephrase it. Well, yes, it's grown, but it's always been there. But now we're getting the exposure and the light that these women who are working so hard to get to these levels are getting seen, right? But it's because everyone's been fighting to do it, right? We've got these women organizations. Like, again, I've been doing this now. Again, this is now year 13, 14 now that I'm trying to get girls on the ice and use this as like a mentor and get them exposed and get women out there. And I've been coaching for 25 years. And of course, I was a girl coach, so I always got the girl hockey players because they were like, here, they'll do better with her. And they did. Don't get me wrong. They weren't wrong,
Right.
but like the boys did just as good too, right? They played, it's a different style. And there is, and you see these USA Canada rivalry games, right? We're not lucky enough to have the PWHL here, unfortunately, but
Not yet.
Yeah, I know, not yet. And again, I'm having bigger conversations with them as well. Again, I want to do big things, and I'm a big believer that it is so important. So anytime that the rivalry series has come out, we have, as soon as tickets are opened up, we're the first ones buying a block of tickets. Every year, it's 60 to 100 tickets that I buy for our girls and their families. I think it's important because, again, we don't just coach hockey. We're mentoring. And so we're mentoring the girls, but we're also mentoring the families, right? We're showing the parents that you can support your daughter playing hockey. And that's been a huge step alone of, I had a crusty dad who's would show up always, like not very happy that his daughter's playing hockey and stuff. And I think year 3, he finally pulled me off to the side and just said, thank you. And I was like, you're welcome. That's it. And then we do orientation and, I'm doing questions and answers with people. And he raises his hand and I was like, oh dear God, please don't blast me for something I didn't do. You know what I mean? As a coach, you know that there's always that chance, right? And so he stands up.
I always say you have your hip kind of going the other way. The rest of your body's going towards them.
Yes, exactly. And so he stood up and he was like, hey, I'm the first to admit I never wanted my daughter to have a stick in her hand, but we've had conversations in the car. I have something to talk to her about. She's been more outgoing, more vocal. She's done better in school. this has been the best thing that's ever happened to her. And to hear that from crusty dad who like I thought was throwing daggers at me every time I saw him, like that's incredible and life changing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so yeah, so having the girls out there, I always try to make sure that they see it, be it, and that's also part of 99% of our volunteers on the ice are women. And I say 99%, the 1% is Robert and my son Lucas, because they go and catch pucks for us, really. And Lucas does my photographs and stuff. But anyway, so but otherwise, that 1 hour of being surrounded by these amazing women who are encouraging you, who are pushing you to a little bit bigger point than you thought you could push yourself, but you're going okay, and you're having conversations with them, and adults are looking at you eye to eye. Forget about it. Forget about it. Like, that's it. Done deal. We're good.
Now that makes me ask a question about this. I saw it was quoted actually in a couple articles that you had been interviewed in, and you said you really love this notion that, you know, when people kind of walk around the classroom, what do you do? What do you do? And a girl gets to say, I play hockey. Talk to us about why that's so like kind of gets you moving around
Oh
that
yeah,
specifically.
absolutely. You know, it's there's this, again, what society expects of girls or of anybody, right? Every group or whatever has some sort of thing that they're supposed to fall under. Um, and hockey is not the normal, right? Most people in Southern California have not played ice hockey. Let's be real, right? My world, yes, I'm filled with it. But overall, I could go down the street and I probably won't find anybody who's played ice hockey in a league here. But to have these kids be in a classroom and they go around and they say, who's a cheerleader? Oh, me. Who plays volleyball? Me. Who's playing soccer? Me. Again, the one ball sports, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what society says, that's as much as you should invest in girls' sports, right? And so to have, and then have it stop, and then have a girl be like, wait, I play ice hockey. And having people like, I'm sorry, what? Like, you mean when you play like street hockey, like in the street? Like, I've had teachers tell my kids that, like, try to correct them, and they're like, no, it's ice hockey. I'm
Tell
on a
me.
team, and I know what I'm talking about. Like, I had two girls who got in trouble. They had hockey for PE in middle school, and their coach took out the sticks, and she was holding it wrong. So they both raised their hand. They're like, "Excuse me, can we show you how to hold that?" And she was like, "Well, how would you know?" Like, and they're like, "Well, we play ice hockey," and she didn't believe them. And so they're like, "Fine." She, like, I guess the teacher, because they both told me the same story, right? And I mean, obviously with a grain of salt because they're kids, right? But and they're like, and she got really mad. She's like, "Fine, you guys come up here and teach hockey then." And so they were like, "Okay." So they said they both went up. They each grabbed a stick. They showed them each how to hold it. They showed them how to pass it back and forth and point to each other. And the teacher apologized to them afterward. Thank God. Otherwise, I would have gone down to that school myself. Like, oh,
I
don't
was
mess with
just
my
about to
babies
say,
like that.
like, that sounds
Woof,
like a Gordon Bombay moment when the kids
woof.
are writing "I will not quack" on the. That sounds like Coach is coming.
Exactly. Exactly. So we've talked about like safe spaces, right? And where to say certain things. But again, the girls know what they were doing. But and then at that same point, we've talked about that of like, if you're gonna take that step and you're going to, then you need to again understand that your words matter, and you need to know your stuff. And where does that matter? Where does that translate? Fast forward to me walking into a boardroom. I am in a very male dominated industry, especially doing sports documentaries. Again, so the day I realized how important my program was, honestly, was me walking into a boardroom and there's 15 middle-aged white guys in the room and me. And I was like, okay, it's that much more important for me to be in that room And it's that much more important for me to know that every word that's going to come out of my mouth is going to be double checked, right? It's a different standard. And whether we admit it or not, it's still that standard, right? And so giving these girls empowerment to speak their truths, use their voice, be heard, and understand the importance of that is only going to get them further in life, right? And so in that meeting, I knew my parts. I broke things down. I told these men what needed to happen and what didn't. Like, thank you very much, everybody. Go on. You know.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, and I think I read your little, of course, like anybody would be nervous going into a boardroom having that conversation, but I can't even imagine. It's just, I mean, no one likes walking into a boardroom anyway, but I'm so happy that, this program is so, you know, without you, I mean, I know there's other people involved that are, a big part of this that you've brought along, your board members and things like that, but that go get 'em, attitude that you learned just kind of just deciding to get on the ice, back when you were younger,
Yeah.
versus that was so impactful. And I mean, even if you didn't end up with the empowerment effect, that those things that you're learning and seeing and kind of understanding along the way, and understanding on the ice, is so impactful just in general in life.
I mean, team sports, everybody should play team sports. You have to learn to communicate. You have to learn to work with people you may not. You have to learn to work with people who have different strengths that you do. And you need to learn how to highlight and make that work,
Hmm.
right? And so as you do that on a team, that only carries you on outside of that. And again, it's play, it's game, but not really. It's ingraining things in there, habits, you know, thought process, and that's what I want. I want to change the way they're thinking. I want them to look on the positive side. I want them to think that anything's possible, that they can go out there every game and score a hat trick if that's what they really want to
Hmm.
do, right? Or if they want to have assist of a hat trick of a, like, I give that just as much weight, you know? So that's
They're
really,
both points.
yeah, exactly. And you know, again, that's teamwork. And the better you are there, the more it carries on through your personal life,
Hmm.
carries on through your work life and as an adult, you know.
You
All
can
my friends
understand,
are,
you know how to handle conflict.
yeah. I mean, again, all my best friends are really my board members. This is kind of our hangout. Like, you
Hmm.
know how you and your buddies go play pickup once a week? Like, we have a board meeting once a week about
I
how do
love
we
it.
do this and change the future.
That's so great. Estella, we're kind of getting close to the end of our conversation, but I have a couple things I really wanted to make sure that we kind of finish strong with. Even though
Okay.
this has been wonderful. But I'm curious about what was it like when you were contact that you were the finalist of the Willie O'Ree Community Hero Award?
It was wild. Like,
Yeah,
it was wild, man. I was like, wait, I'm sorry, what? Like,
yeah.
wait, you shouldn't want me to, like, are you calling me to back somebody else up? Like, wait, what? Wait. And so, yeah, I still get choked up over all the things. Like, honestly, I get choked up even hearing his name. Like, just
Yeah.
remember I told you empathy is my superpower. So I feel all the things, I do all the things. But yes, it was. I felt a little undeserving, but eternally grateful that all of my kids, all of my volunteers, all that hard work that the families are putting in to do better, that the kids are, that the volunteers are doing, like, that everyone's getting highlighted. You know, yeah, it's me as the face, right? And yes, but again, there's no way I would be where I'm at without the kids, the families, everybody, everybody.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love that you mentioned that, just because I think that's why the people that I've talked to that have either won or been finalists for the Willie O'Ree Award are all about, it's not about them, which I really love. It's like, even though you end up getting the award, um, it's all that whole moment of getting there, being announced, getting on stage, getting the award is not about you. It's about, you're kind of just like the vessel grabbing it.
Right. I'm
But
just a physical flesh that holds this and says, "Way to go, guys."
yeah. And I mean, obviously, a lot of this has to do with, your work and the amount of work that this idea that you came up with in front of these, 15 guys in a boardroom, came to fruition. Um, but yeah, everyone involved is just as important as the other, and that's how organizations like yours, and others around the country and around the world, are so crucial to the growth of, not just kids, but kids from any kid. And I always say the word any because it's important. Any kid should be able to play the sport. It's not
Yeah.
it shouldn't be a wealthy middle class sport. It should be for everybody. And we know why, because the the thing we get out of it is so crucial, and it can be helpful to everybody.
Everybody. I
Yeah.
mean, all the aspects of it, everything about it. I wish it was more accessible. That's my
Yeah.
goal, is to try to make it more accessible.
One last thing I'm curious about. I know that the Willie O'Ree Award, you get a bit of an award with it. Um, what's is there anything specific that you'd like to mention that award really helped for your organization?
Oh, I mean, the exposure alone, right? That's really what I'm kind of, again, grateful for, is that we were, by being nominated and getting this award, people learned about us. And there's one part of, I want people to learn about us, but more, and truly, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I'm so happy that people are learning about us, because I'm hoping that there'll be more people who do this somewhere else. That they look at our situation and be like, oh, this little first generation Hispanic Mexican girl put this whole program together and is making a difference in her community. I could do it too. That's it. People can do it. It doesn't take a lot. And I know that what I'm doing is a little bit more grandesque. I get it. But again, just pay it forward, open a door for somebody, be kind. If hockey's your thing, talk to somebody about it and encourage them to keep loving hockey. That's it. And it doesn't feel like it's a lot, but that's what I think this brought, was attention to the program. And I hope it inspires others to do more in their communities as well.
Yeah, love that. Because that kind of goes. I always have my starting question, but I always have the finishing question,
Yeah.
which is what's 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 the empowerment effect? What's the plan for kind of looking into the future of this?
The future is bright. Let's be real. I'm very excited. One of the positives that came out of this, also was, we're fortunate to be a community that didn't have hockey 20 years ago, and now I have the LA Kings next door, and I have the Anaheim Ducks 30 miles down the road. So we are now in contact with them. I've had a few meetings with them. They actually just purchased. They purchased. They didn't get it from anybody. They purchased 40 helmets for my program,
Wow.
to donate. Correct. Because one of the problems is helmets, right? People donate gear. You can get, old elbow pads, whatever, but your brain, there's an expiration date to the helmet. We started looking through all of them. I had 2008 in there. And again, if I'm talking about doing this program, and our girls mattering and them being worth it, they are worth an investment, right? So we
Mm-hmm.
purchased some new helmets this last year. They just purchased helmets for us this year. They want to host our girls out there. I'm talking to them about some of the areas, Anaheim and Orange County out here has this, and people see the OC and they're like, oh, Orange County doesn't need help. They absolutely do. They're, unless you're by the beach, there are a lot of areas that are minorities. There are multi-generational homes in one place that are underserved. And again, to have such a beautiful facility, you got the pond, you've got this team, and for them to not be able to have access to it, or feel like they shouldn't, like that's part of town they shouldn't go into, that I want to change that mindset. I want to get those inner city girls, and those dads who are, who only speak Spanish, who are, raised with that machismo, to bring their daughters and be like, oh yeah, my daughter's awesome. You
Yeah.
know?
No, I love
So
that.
that's, what we're looking to do. We're hoping
Because it
to grow,
also, that
expand.
accessibility you're talking about is so important for the fact of just being knowledgeable as well. Even
Yeah.
people, even though everyone's one of us Orange County, like, no, it's,
No, there's,
accessibility is not just, it's not sometimes not just financial. It's
yeah,
knowledge. It's, someone wanting to try something, but the hardest part about hockey is wanting to try it. It's not like if you try it, you're like, oh, well, I got to buy these skates, I got to buy this equipment, I got to buy this equipment. And that's just to try, you know?
correct. That's
And
why people don't try it
right.
unless you have a hand-me-down set, right? Oh, my friend's son used to play. He's outgrown this stuff. So yeah, you can try it, right? How
Yeah.
many times have you heard that with kids, right? Like hand-me-downs. Again, I could go blocks and not find another hockey player on the street. More now, but and so to like give kids that opportunity. And that's kind of how we started this is we were offering just clinics. Like, girls, just come out here. No commitment, no nothing. Just come try it. I've got skates, I've got helmet, I got all the things. Come try it. If you like it, sign up. And if you don't, you can cross it off your bucket list that you tried hockey.
Yep.
And even that, one little bit. Hey, I tried hockey once. What?
Yeah.
That's
It's
big,
huge.
and that matters. And so again, I will always encourage it, and I will always welcome little girls to go out there and just be engulfed in the hockey love there.
That's awesome. That's a great kind of closer, Estelle. Thank you so much for your time.
Of course.
Congratulations on your huge award win.
Thank you.
And your program deserves it. The board's amazing. And next time I'm out there, I'll make sure I get to connect and see the magic. Although I'm a guy, so
It's
I'll have
okay.
to.
Listen, we'll give special visitor passes. Don't you worry about
Fair,
it. I got you,
fair.
Steve. As long as you're respectful, everybody, we got you. Come on over. You're a friend of ours.
Sounds wonderful.
We've now made this connection. We're now hockey family. You know how it works in the hockey world, Steve.
You got it.
Anytime I missed that Canuck bar, it was closed. I was only a few blocks away from it. I actually walked past it that night. I was in New York, so thanks for the recommendations.
Sure.
Anytime I go out there, I'll keep hitting you up, buddy.
You got it. We'll find a connection sometime. Well,
Oh, I'm sure.
Estela,
Again,
thank you so much.
yeah, thank you.
This has been wonderful.
Thank you, Steve. I love your podcast. Keep up the good work, man. It's awesome.
Well, talking with Estela shows that a lot of hard work and determination can really create such an impact for these young ladies she works with. It was a true joy to chat with her, and I'm very excited next time I'm in LA to check out the program, even though it is a full empowered group of great female coaches and young female hockey players. But as Estela said, she'll give me she'll give me the the golden ticket to check it out and say hey to the players, because I would really love that. Next week we'll talk about some of my picks for the upcoming 24-25 season. I don't know if anyone else has noticed. There's still a lot of free agents that aren't signed. There's still a lot of things that are moving, even though by the next episode we'll probably start to be walking into training camps. Congratulations to Drysdale on his $112 million extension for 8 years. But what's that mean for Connor? So, just give it a chance, Edmonton, because before you know it, you'll be an AHL team with two of the best players in the world. But we'll see how that works as far as making it back to the Cup. That's the end of the episode. Don't forget to subscribe down below or comment anytime. Connect with my Instagram. You can connect. I'll have this. I'm gonna start using TikTok more. I'm gonna start using X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and things like that, just so you guys can see things upcoming and things from these episodes, as well as being on Apple and Spotify and YouTube. So first beginning of the season. I hope everyone is ready. I know passing cross ice when you've taken off some time and the ice is soft in the summer. I know they're not very crisp, but wearing in your new gloves, wearing your new helmet, make sure your equipment's right, because we'll see you on the ice. Until next episode. Bye.
So sweet.